A video about the Nikon D850 in 2025? Really? Surely the Z8 and the Z9 have consigned the D850 to the bin, or at least to the museum that we can admire it, but that doesn't necessarily mean it's fit for today. The arguments have been had, the debates are over. The mirrorless system reigns supreme. Maybe, but listen to this. That, my friends, is the sound of the shutter in the Nikon D850, and that is music. And these images were all shot with the D850. Not just any D850, but mine, my personal camera. These are my images. Are they world-beating photographs? Are they likely award winners? Probably not. But do they evoke memories of a moment in time? Do they capture the mood that I was trying to capture? Do they tell a story I was trying to tell? Well, yes, they do, and therefore the D850 makes the difference for me. In this video, I'm going to give you my reasons for sticking with the Nikon D850 versus upgrading to a mirrorless system. Now, I use the word upgrading advisedly because I think it's contentious, and I'm going to talk to some of the points that have influenced my decision to stick with the system that I currently have, rather than moving across to mirrorless. And I'm going to use the Z8 as an example, but the reality is modern day, high-end mirrorless cameras, there's not going to be a huge amount of difference. So I'm comparing my Nikon from 2017 in the DSLR system to modern mirrorless similar quality cameras, and I'm using the Z8 as the example. So let's start with what is most important for me, which is the image quality. And the image quality is fundamentally determined by the sensor in the camera. Well, the Z8 and the D850 have got pretty much the same sensor. They're both 45 megapixel CMOS sensors, and the only real difference is that the Nikon Z8, the sensor in that camera, is quicker, undoubtedly quicker. Challenge is the speed of the sensor doesn't affect the quality of the image. You could be the most pedantic 200% pixel peeper, and you wouldn't see a difference between a shot taken on the D850 and the same shot taken on the Z8, all other things being equal. At least that's my opinion. Now, where speed makes a difference is in frames per second. And of course, if you're a wildlife photographer, as I am, or a sports photographer, that should be a really compelling reason to move. But is it really? When I take a day out to shoot wildlife or birds, I normally come home with 1,500 images. Now that's 1,500 images that I need to sort through, apply star ratings, cull, before I even decide which images I'm going to edit. That takes time, a lot of time. If I was to be shooting at 20 frames per second, then I would have something like 3,500 images to sort through cull before I get to editing. I'm not sure that's a good trade-off for a faster frames per second. And I have to ask, at what point should I just take video and choose the frame I prefer? At what point does it stop being photography? So for me, when we look at image quality, the sensor fundamentally means that the image quality is not going to change. The reality is that the Nikon D850, released in 2017, had achieved pretty much everything that could be achieved from an image quality perspective. The manufacturers had exhausted the law of diminishing returns and had reached the plateau of image quality for stills photography. So now we come to video capability. And I'm not going to spend a huge amount of time talking about the differences in capability between the D850 and the Z8. And I hear you shouting at the screen, Well, that's because you've got a steam-powered antique, Darren. That's because the Z8 is vastly superior to the Nikon D850 when it comes to video capability. Yeah, you're 100% right. I just don't use my video capability in my stills camera. I use my camera for photography, for stills. So I am ready to accept that the Nikon Z8 and other high-end mirrorless cameras have a much better video capability, partly due to the speed of the sensor that we mentioned earlier. The challenge is, for me, is that that's just not compelling because I won't use it. Uncontentious point is that the Z8 is smaller and it's lighter. The Z lenses that you should be using with the Z8 are lighter and smaller. So size and weight, which is really, really important for some people, is a compelling reason if you're one of those people. For me, it makes very little difference to my world. I'm fortunate that I'm able-bodied and can carry the extra weight, and personal choice here, I like the feel of the heft. I like the weight. I like the fact that the D850 just feels bomb-proof. So that size and weight advantage isn't an advantage to me. It certainly isn't an advantage sufficient enough for me to move from my current camera, my current setup that I'm happy with, to a brand new system. There are some elements of the D850 that I definitely prefer. The first of those is almost certainly a personal choice, personal preference, and it's probably got something to do with my age. But I prefer the optical viewfinder versus the digital counterpart. As I say, it's marginal. It's not a huge preference. It's not something I would turn away a new camera for. But given one or the other as a choice, I would definitely take the optical version. The next preference is battery life. And again, this isn't really very contentious at all. All of the reviews, all of the technical specifications will tell you that a battery in a D850 will take many more images than an equivalent in a Z8. Okay, now some people say it's double. Some people will say 4 times, and some people even say 5 times. Regardless of the multiple, you will get more captures from your D850 than you will from a Z8. Fact. And then, of course, did I mention the sound of the shutter? If I am taking pictures undercover, maybe in a church, hey, let's say at a funeral, then maybe I'll consider the benefits of a silent, shutterless camera system. But until then, I'm very happy with the D850 and that beautiful sound that it makes. Now, I've given you a few preferences. I've given you a few reasons why the Z8 is not a compelling shift for me. But I reiterate, I am not saying that the Nikon D850 is a better camera. Absolutely not the case. That's not my point at all. I am merely arguing the reasons as to why the move to a Z8 or equivalent is just not a compelling option for me. And if it were, then I also have to take into account the cost considerations of that move. In reality, if the photo fairy was to turn up overnight, take all of my kit away and replace it with the latest and greatest Z model from Nikon along with the lenses, would I be upset with that the next morning? No. But the photo fairy is very unlikely to visit, and therefore there is a cost implication of shifting. So let me quickly run over that based on the 2 scenarios that I see. Scenario number 1, complete change. Swap out the body, swap out all of the lenses, and for this example, I'm going to use 3 reasonably decent lenses, which you'll see on the screen. So the body is, broadly speaking, for a Z8, $4,000, give or take. There might be an offer when you're watching this video, but give or take $4,000. 3 decent lenses. In these zoom configurations, you're looking at around about another $5,000. And note, there is no long zoom there. There's no 500mm. And then on top of that, you've got a few of the peripherals. Yeah, the memory cards for the particular camera, the batteries, a spare battery charger maybe. Hell, if you're spending that sort of money, you might even want to buy a new camera bag. Add all of that together, and you're looking at, roughly speaking, $10,000 or £8,000. That's option one. Option two is, of course, to keep your F lenses. Just swap out the body and buy a converter. Well, one of the big arguments for the mirrorless system is the quality of the lenses. And many people argue that the quality of a Z lens is vastly superior to the quality of the old lenses. I personally disagree, especially when I print. I notice no difference at all. But many people say that the quality is superior. They are certainly lighter. So if portability is important to you, then just swapping out the body and retaining your lenses may not be a great option. But if that was the choice that you took, then you're looking at $4,000 for the body, and you're looking for the same peripherals, battery, memory cards, bag, etc. So let's call it $4,800, or broadly speaking, £3,800, £4,000. That's a significant investment. And again, the benefits of moving to mirrorless just aren't compelling enough to make that sort of dent in the bank account. Now, of course, you might decide to trade in your old kit, and that, of course, would give you a reasonable deposit towards the overall outlay. Ultimately, though, that isn't my reasoning for not moving from DSLR to mirrorless. It's not all about the rational calculations, the list of pros and cons, the technical specifications, or even the costs. It's more than that. It's all about the why. Why do I get up at 5 o'clock in the morning to drive for hours to get to a particular destination? Why do I wait, convincing myself that that light will come, the clouds will part, and we will get the perfect light for the shot? Why do I wait for that elusive species to turn up and make an appearance? Why do I do photography at all? The why is definitely not about having the prettiest, best looking image to view on screen or to even print and frame. If that was my motivation, there are millions, nay billions of images online created by the best photographers that have ever held a camera, created by those lucky amateurs who have been persistent and got the shot they craved, created by artificial intelligence. No, having the most aesthetically pleasing image is not the main motivation. Now, of course, I want to take images. I want to take great images. I want to take images that evoke a mood, that tell a story, but it's not the why. The why is all about the anticipation. The anticipation once you've booked a trip. The anticipation of the drive, the anticipation as you pull into the car park. It's the waiting. Waiting for that big cat to pounce on its prey. Waiting for that light to come through. Waiting for that kestrel to finally spread its wings and fly. And of course, it's more than that. It's personal. It's internal. It's about peace. It's about quiet. It's about solitude. It's about connecting with nature. It's all of those things and it's more. But it's definitely not about the kit. So, whilst the arguments have been had and the debates have been won, and the mirrorless camera is now the future, undoubtedly, for me, I'm just not compelled. So I'm sticking with the old faithful, the Nikon D850. At least for now. I would love to hear your opinions. I'd love to hear your experiences. Have you stuck with the DSLR? Or have you moved across to the mirrorless system? It'd be great to hear from you in the comments below. And if you do, I'll be sure to respond. Till the next time. Thanks for watching.